Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hyrule Chronicles. This is episode 137. I am ArticulateT. I am the game master of this Legend of Zelda-based Dungeons & Dragons campaign. And with me, as always, I have Renji Vox being played by Nether.
We are so powerful.
I have Hikan Sio being played by Avrdal.
Hello.
I have Zayden Shari being played by Rubber Pirate.
Hi.
And Max being played by Keistrith.
Hello.
So, friends, what happened last time?
The Storm's Eye, a task force of adventurers under the command of the King of Hyrule, had been tasked with vanquishing the Twilight Cartel, a shadowy organization profiting off of the Hyrulean Civil War and being actively involved in attacks against the royal family. Their final quarry, Cassandra Summerborn, stayed elusive for a long while, but she was finally located in Mydal's village, one of the few remaining holdouts for the rebelling villages in the Civil War. Going to Mydal's, the Storm's Eye secured Cassandra and sent her off to Hyrule Castle Town before dealing with the final remnants of the rebelling forces. However, as they head to Castle Town themselves, they realized dropping off Cassandra earlier didn't go exactly to plan. Rushing through town with Impa, they finally find Cassandra in the sewers, knocked unconscious by Nihilus Vox, Renji's father. With Cassandra secured, the Storm's Eye debriefs the royal family and then goes to rest. A council meeting is called, and that is where we start today.
Indeed.
It is time for a talk fight.
Oh, fight! Do-do-do!
Talk fight.
So, we find ourselves back in Hyrule Castle. It is the late evening. The sun has gone down. The stars are present in the sky overhead as the nominally quiet halls of Hyrule Castle are interrupted with the sounds of rushed footsteps as the various available nobles of the court of Hyrule make their way through the castle to a designated meeting location as instructed by various scribes and runners who had to go and fetch them for this impromptu meeting. Various degrees of indignity and concern move through the court themselves. They are led through various different halls into a smaller room, a long rectangular table in a dark stone room is arranged with various different plates and placemats and accoutrements for a sit-down meal. At the head of the table, 3 chairs are sat, with the former King Marius, the current King Rufus, and Princess Sophitia, now no longer in hiding, sit and wait. The Sheikah bodyguards Alea, Impa, and Nihilus stand ready at the nearby walls as a quartet of knights guard the extreme ends of the hall with great swords, drawn and standing to attention. The first to sit down, as is his wont, is a blustery, slightly overweight man with a bushy moustache and slick back raven black hair, known to the court as Lord Rickshaw, the lord in charge of labour. He sits down, offers a quick but curt bow to the royal family, and then turns his attention to the remaining members of the court. Sitting across from him is a balding man with greying ginger hair that's running down the sides of his face in mutton chops. This broad-shouldered but poor-postured man sits down, gives a more graceful bow, and nods to Rickshaw across from him. This is Lord Barstrom. He is the Lord of Agriculture. someone who, very much from a common background, does not fit the noble attire that he has to wear in formal meetings such as this. On Barstum's right sits down a tall, broad man of a fairly significant age. Long hair, wild in a mane, with an equally long, bushy beard. The marks of age on his face do nothing to dissuade anyone from seeing someone of such an imposing figure, this being High Paladin of Chronica, Lord Das, the Lord of the Faith. Across from Lord Das is a thin, weaselly man with long greying hair and a similar moustache to Rickshaw, who sits down uncomfortably in his seat. He offers a somewhat grovelling bow to the royal family before he turns his attention to the table in front of him. Behind him, standing by his shoulder, is a fairly demure woman with long black hair who looks rather uncomfortable to be in this room. This would be Lord Fontsworth V and his head advisor, Jaina. Next to Fontsworth, sitting down quite carefully, is a bold, very old man with large round spectacles and a tuft of grey for a goatee. He smiles widely as he nods and bows to everyone around him and tries his best to restrain himself from starting up more inane conversation, this being Lord Dr. Crane, the Lord of Engineering. Opposite Crane sits down a rather what's the word I'm looking for here?
Only you can answer that.
Yeah, only I can answer that. Yeah, a dignified man, well-coiffed hair, well-coiffed facial hair, sits down with the practiced sort of rigidity of military life. However, there is a despondence in his eyes. He's even beyond the late hour that they are currently at with this little meeting. He is tired in more ways than one. This being Lord Whitestone, the Lord of Law. Finally, in the last seat next to Dr. Crane sits a tall, broad-shouldered woman with long red hair, the marks of age and laugh lines of someone who has lived a full life. Sits down, offers a professional but friendly bow to the royals, and then turns her attention to the rest of the table, this being Lady Milrose, the Lady of Trade. And so the remaining seats at the table are one across from Milrose, empty, and then the opposite end of the table from the royals are four admittedly hastily put down seats. This would be where the Storm's Eye would be sitting. Meanwhile, with the Storm's Eye, after the nobles had been escorted towards this room, or in the process of, a runner would have come to find each and every one of you, in order to advise that you make your way to this hall, and will guide you there as and when needed. Let's see. Let me put up some actual music here to fill the void. If I remember correctly, Hikan, you're wandering the court. You're wandering the castle grounds. Zaiden, you're currently in one of the rooms offered at the castle. Renji, you're also at one of the rooms offered at the castle. And Max, you're at the house.
I believe I
Renji
left to the house as
was
well.
at the house with Max.
Okay. In that case, then, the first person that would have been found would probably have been Hikan. Hikan, you are guided through the halls, and into this long, dark room. I say dark room, this dark stone room. On one side, opposite the window, would be a immense fireplace. And at the other end of the room is the biggest organ that you have possibly ever seen. It's quite possible that this was just a repurposed chapel at one point. But it certainly has a different brickwork and architecture from the rest of the building. It's likely one of the older parts of the castle since any possible renovation or advanced work, and I will move you all to the map so you can see.
Ooh, there's a map.
Hold on.
Neat.
Look at all these jackasses.
There we go.
So the runner escorts you into the room. They don't do like the grand ball gala thing of announcing your presence as you enter. They kind of just take you through to the room, step aside, bow to you, gesture for you to take one of the seats at the end of the table, and then turn around to go and tend to other matters.
I'm wondering how to do the thing we had discussed previously.
I think when Hikan first shows up, given that everyone else is kind of arriving, he'd watch what they do and then hesitantly mimic their actions before taking a seat, looking at Jaina longingly, because he also wants to stand, but he doesn't think he can at this moment.
That's fair. Yeah, you take a seat. There's a collective of looks across the table. Barstum kind of just gives you a sort of professional nod. He doesn't really, at this point in time, like, I don't think Barstum has talked to any of you, so he's just kind of like, another person, welcome. Das is much the same. Whitestone kind of gives you a kind of a longer sort of knowing sort of, hello, welcome, I know you, I thank you, but business sort of thing. Milrose just smiles, and the moment, like, having, like, in an attempt partly to not have to entreat the others with professional conversation, and also to potentially escape from the inane stories of Dr. Crane, immediately turns in her seat and, like, elbows on table, looks at you and goes, "Oh, Hikan, welcome, it's good to see you. How have you been?"
Good to see you too. It's I've been busy, and I'll just kind of loosely fill in Milrose with some of the more adventuring aspects of it, like going over to Automark and whatnot, not going into details on what we did after Automark recently.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she'll sit and listen intently and kind of like, she will ask like questions as to the whatever you provide her. She will ask questions on, but she won't like probe you for and then what happened and then what happened. It's more just a case of like asking for clearer details on like, what's that part of Hyrule like this time of year? Have you seen any interesting animals? That sort of thing. But yeah. Then the next person to be brought in after being roused from their slumber and allowed to prepare would be Zayden. Zayden, you are brought into the room, much like
Zayden,
before.
I think on the way over would ask if he would be okay to wait outside for his companions.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Zayden is planning to cheat with this social encounter.
Oh my god.
Fair enough. You do wait for a little bit of time. I'd say around about half an hour by the time the scribe turns up with Renji and Max, who prior to their arrival would have had a knock at the door of the house.
I'll take that.
Yeah. You get there, you open the door, you see someone in a scribe's uniform, look up and say, "Oh, hello, sorry to bother you this late at night, but His Majesty would request the presence of the Storm's Eye for the sake of a conversation with the court in regards to what to do."
Thank you, we'll be there momentarily. Max!
I'm right behind you.
Oh. You are very quiet. Well done.
I am also good at sneaking.
I am I actually,
Max does have a +9 to stealth. He's not that bad.
Yeah.
I do have a +15 to perception.
Yeah, but it is also possible that you rolled bad.
Oh, absolutely. But if you want to be sneaky, it's against my passive, right?
It's fine.
I don't know, is it? Can't we
But-
just RP this and have it be funny?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was wondering if it's a genuine thing or if Renji is.
I would like
is
to just
improvising.
RP this and have it be funny.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. But yeah, so after allowing you whatever time you need in order to get ready, the scribe will go with you to the castle, lead you down the halls and towards the room. Renji, because you've lived in the castle before, you would know from conversations with the royal family or other Sheikah in the castle that essentially the organ was this was meant to be a part of a chapel of an older floor plan of the castle before things were developed and built over. Everybody for the past 3 generations of kings have tried and failed to maintain interest in the organ enough to learn how to play it. It's just such a racket. No one wants to do that.
Okay.
So it's just been gathering dust here for like a couple hundred years at this point.
A shame.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
It's a conversation piece.
It is a conversation piece. But yeah, you so you get there and you arrive and see Zayden waiting patiently outside the room.
I would have in the time that we had to rest, I would have bathed, I would have cleaned my clothes, and so returning to the castle, I am in full shining mithril breastplate, my clean and very stark red tunic underneath.
In contrast, Max looks exactly the same as when you last saw him.
Absolutely fair. And I believe on my my cloak, the billowing effect still works.
Cloak of Billowing is the only common magic item you should take.
I did add the billowing effect to my cloak of protection, so it's
but it's
just-
still like that's what it is. Plus,
Yes.
it's
it is
Yeah.
not just functional.
Whenever it protects you, it billows automatically.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh dear.
I kind of, as we get here, I kind of glance in. I see that Rickshaw is already seated, and I kind of look to you two, like, I suppose we're going to have to be professional, because I don't feel like spending magic to do some tricks.
I thought at least I could help us out a bit before we go in,
Oh,
if you're both willing.
do share.
Going to cast Enhance Ability at 4th level for Charisma.
On the 2 charisma people.
Oh, I like that. Thank you.
On all 3 of us, because Hikan's already in there.
I just gotta check a feat that I have. Okay, never mind. It's an attack roll. Never mind.
Your super advantage?
Yes.
Oh dear.
Unfortunately, despite me describing it as a talk fight, we're not actually fighting.
Yeah, I figured. I figured.
Unfortunately.
Hmm.
Do you have any particular place you want to sit at, Max or Zayden?
Max shrugs because he doesn't really know how this works.
Okay, you go sit next to Hikan then.
Hmm.
I'll take the rightmost seat.
Okay.
And I'll let Max and Zayden slide
I
in
don't
first.
know if Max has sat in a chair since getting the wings, so he does fuss about a lot as he sits down to get them in a position where they're not uncomfortable.
As you enter in and sit down.
Before I definitely bow to the royals of the other end and kind of curtly nod to everyone present.
Milrose greets all of you with the same enthusiasm that she greeted Hikan.
I try and mirror that enthusiasm in saying, "It's good to see you, Lady Milrose. I'm very glad that we are here. With some unfortunate things to discuss, but it's still good to see you."
Of course, it is very good to see you. It is unfortunate that we do not have everybody here. She kind of looks around the table.
Yes, I thought there would have been another chair.
Never Risha would be.
True. But there is still... And I kind of glance. Do I notice that 2 seats should have been here for the Minister of Education and the Minister of Magic?
Make a insight.
Okay, 1 moment. Insight. 15.
Okay, with a 15, hard to say, but I think you would gather that the number of chairs around this table are not necessarily uniform. It's possible that the table itself was intended for fewer people to sit around it. It's why the 4 of you have been bunched at one end and the 3 royals are bunched at the other end.
This isn't necessarily the big meeting table.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, there would ordinarily need to be 2 other spaces available. It's possible that they decided to forego actually 3 available spaces, 1 for education, 1 for defense, and 1 for arcane. Well, as you are here on behalf of the late Lord Simeon, and Risha's currently away on business dealing with the latter aspects of the Civil War, so the only seat that is currently there and empty would be for the Lord of the Arcane, who has not arrived just yet.
I bet he has to close up shop.
There's a brief moment as whatever small chatter is happening is quieted as the clinking of a glass is heard. All eyes turn to the end of the table as Marius stands up and looks to Rufus and Sophitia, who kind of nod a little bit. And Marius turns back and says, "Thank you all for coming. I understand that it is not exactly the most professional or desired time of day and circumstance for us to have a meeting such as this, but this is something of an emergency, and it concerns the entirety of the kingdom. There's kind of the side of the table Marius is on, all just kind of nod slowly. The Milrose similarly nods slowly in recognition. Crane tilts his head to the side in kind of a curious fashion. Farnsworth rolls his eyes, and Rickshaw just kind of folds his arms and squints a bit before Marius continues. There is a threat that will be coming to our kingdom within a indeterminate but no doubt short amount of time. And we are here to ensure that whatever happens, we see the other side of this threat, and we are able to become stronger as a nation for it. And Rufus stands up and kind of tugs a little bit on his formal clothes and says, in most instances, from what I've been told, we would be under the authority to act independently, as is the traditions and rights of royalty. However, it is important that if we are to face this together, then everybody has a say. As my father had selected each of you as exemplars of your station, so to speak, you have a duty to represent the people. And as such, you need to have your say when dealing with this threat. I believe in that case, more information is better. So, and he looks down to the opposite end of the table, nods to the four of you and says, if you'd be so kind as to inform the court as to what is transpiring. I know that we are missing one person, but we've been told that they will be late and they are more privy to the situation than most, so they do not need to worry about the... They said preamble, and Sasiti says, yes, Uriel will be along shortly. Please continue.
With that, Renji kind of carefully pushes his seat back, stands up. With your leave, then? And he starts regaling pretty much everything. Probably from the moment of Minister Simeon's death, as being the first time we started dealing with the Sovereign Hand and the Twilight Cartel. I would like to make a persuasion or a performance check here to kind of make sure that I lead everyone through this this story as best as Renji can.
Yes. Give me a second. I just noticed one key thing that I can amend quite quickly, but there's one thing I've completely forgotten to do, and I'm really mad at myself for it.
Oh no.
Hi, Craig.
Okay.
I completely forgot to set everything to record, so I can get the first half of it from the VOD on the Twitch thing, but the rest of it from this point onward will be properly edited audio and whatnot. Again, I'm mad at myself. Please continue.
That's okay. I would like to know if I should roll a persuasion or a performance check here.
That's a good question. I would say if your main goal is to ensure that you are speaking clearly and conveying all of the facts in a precise and understandable manner, performance. If you're more focused on trying to convince the gathered nobles that the situation is as dire as you describe it, persuasion.
Then absolutely persuasion. That's a 30.
Very nice, very nice. As you describe everything that continues onwards, each of the nobles have their own different reaction to it. Milrose has kind of sits and focuses intently on the story and each of the details as you go through. She doesn't say anything, despite her normally curious nature in terms of the life of an adventurer. Being an adventurer prior to her nobility, she remains quiet, allows you to continue on and get to the end as best as possible, entirely for the sake of, okay, I know this needs to be heard. Whitestone seems almost implacable. There seems no change into his demeanor. He's as tired as he was when this all started out. Dr. Crane, occasionally at the start, asks a couple of questions in terms of like curiosity and everything. Like you start from the death of Lord Simeon and continue on from there. And as you describe things such as Grastel's Manor and other aspects like the hidden cartel headquarters that lie beneath the slums of Hyrule Castletown, he does occasionally pipe up and ask for specific details on things, but after a couple of glances from a few other people within the room, he manages to control his own intent curiosity. Das will listen and keep his eyes on all of you for the moment, but as you continue describing the aspects of undeath that continue to become worse and worse with each passing moment of interacting with the Sovereign Hand, he looks to the table, closes his eyes, and listens and nods along, but seems to be in some form of deep contemplation. Boston seems thoroughly appalled at what seems to be transpiring, mostly because he can recognize something that preys upon the trials and tribulations of the common man. He knows, he can sense in some way, shape, or form that aspects of this kind of cult-like nature, the things that prey on desperation, they usually hit people at the bottom of the ladder first. And he kind of like his attempt at proper posture falters, and he kind of slumps a little in his chair as he listens. Farnsworth is of similar levels of disgust, but is doing his best to maintain a proper composure. He's doing his best, but it's clear that he is quite scared of what you are saying, what the scope of what it is that is possibly coming to Hyrule. Rickshaw, despite your 30, seems a little incredulous. He cocks an eyebrow as he leans slightly as he listens to your story, but he doesn't interrupt in any regard. It becomes even more clear when, well, I should ask, as you're describing this, do you go into detail about Mara?
I think Renji feels like he should. Especially when it...
If you don't, Max will.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'll
Not into like extreme detail, but we'll say like this is the deal.
Mm-hmm.
We have a
I
plan.
think maybe Renji falters there as well, just a little bit in his speech. Kind of rallies himself as he looks at his companions, sees that determination in Max as well, and just comes out. Specifically mentions that we have, through Samaria, a means of saving her soul, and how that factors into our plan of dealing with the Lich.
Okay. So as you bring up Mara's nature, the not necessarily the what she is, that doesn't besmirch the who she is. The Rickshaw does kind of like grimace.
The second he opens his mouth, Max will fire his strongest glare at him, and I would like to roll intimidation to shut him the fuck up.
Go for it.
That's 24.
Okay.
I was on a roll of a 7. It's not even like the most powerful glare he's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear. But yes, he he opens his mouth. You glare at him, and he just
I think the last time Rickshaw saw Max, he was significantly less dragon.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's the first time in a long time any of these people have seen you. The Milrose is the one who saw you the last. And even then, that's still a fair amount of time ago. That was pre-fall of Sarkoza, so that's yeah.
Max just wants to cut off the guy being predictably impolite about her.
Yeah. Yeah. As you reach the end of your tale, there's Rufus kind of nods a bit and says, "Thank you for providing the information."
I bow and sit down.
Rufus then kind of looks to the rest of the table and says, "I think for the most part, we are down a couple of individuals that would normally have their own say in this matter. For those wondering, the barons before you," gestures to the four of you again, says, "because of their familiarity with Lord Simeon prior to his passing, they will be undertaking his role here within this discussion."
Master says, also we ran into Mr. Lord of Magic guy. He is Samara.
At the marking of you have a seat at this table. It's a collective four person seat, but you have a seat at the table here. Rickshaw snaps out some of his intimidated state a little bit and says, "But is that wise, Your Majesty?"
Gonna raise a hand and say, "Our vote does count as one."
But he even still, at which point Milrose says, "But they have been the ones who have been dealing with this threat the longest. They have also the ones capable of understanding it intimately. And as knowledge is power and knowledge is a part of education, they are the best suited for the task. Don't you agree?" Rickshaw's like, before he can interject, I need to make an integrity roll for one person at the table. Okay. Before he can interject, Fontsworth taps a table with his fist and goes, "Here, here! Yes, indeed, they should be here immediately."
Thanks, buddy. Max will look at Rickshaw again and say, "Maybe next time speak up after you've fought hordes of zombies."
I feel like you could have shortened that to speak up after you've fought.
Good point.
Anyway. I'd say with passive insight, because all of you have very significant passive insight, and Renji, you've encountered you haven't properly met Fontsworth before, but you've heard the stories. Fontsworth,
I think Max has the lowest insight at 19.
Yeah. Fontsworth is a bit of a bandwagon person. He will kind of immediately, whoever is clearly the side that is winning, he will join. Every idea that is put forth, he will claim as his and present it that way.
That motherfucker loves saying "here, here."
Yeah.
It's his favorite thing.
It is absolutely his favorite thing, and he can tell from how Milrose and Rickshaw are already getting into it, and the fact that we are sitting here as war veterans at this point.
Yeah.
He kind of knows what way the wind is blowing.
We have the world's shiniest Sheikah. We have someone older than everyone here combined. Possibly. We have how do I best describe Hikan in this situation? Because it's kind of difficult.
Muscular team.
I am here for moral support.
We
That
have
is
we
what
have
Hikan is here for.
we have the most visibly goodest boy.
Mhm.
That's it. That's the description. And
Yeah.
we have Mr. Dragon.
Oh dear. Yeah. As Rufus kind of like nods a bit and says, as they say, they're suited for the task. They're the ones most familiar with it, so they should be here. Sophitia then speaks up and says, as we say, we are still waiting for our interim Lord of the Arcane to arrive, and it would be on the eve of a potential war to have the Lady of Defence present, but unfortunately they are currently quite the distance away dealing with the remnants of the Civil War.
Didn't we have a thing for that?
I kind of ceremonially put down the sending stone on the table here, and kind of casually then say, Lady Risha, can you hear us?
There's a brief pause, and at which point the voice comes through as, yes, hello, yes.
We are gathered here with all of the lords of Hyrule, King Rufus, Lord Marius, Princess Sophitia, and us, the Storm's Eye, Sans, Lord of the Arcane, at this very moment.
He's late.
Yes.
Oh, a meeting. Oh, how... She pauses. It's clear she wants to say the word unfortunate, but at this point in time, she just...
I imagine we
carries on.
will have informed her that this is happening during the time we were resting.
Yeah.
It's a bit much to kind of just throw this
Drop.
on someone out of the blue.
True.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll add Risha onto the map as if she's there.
Excellent.
But yeah. So, as you...
Is it one of those like icon things that looks kind of like a phone?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Let me have a look and see.
Or a Star Wars hologram.
The one that looks like a guy yelling really loud near the bottom.
That one?
Yeah, there you
That'll
go.
do. Oh dear. But yes, you now have Lady Risha as part of the conversation. But as things go, Risha will say, yes, I have been somewhat informed of this conversation happening. I do apologise if I disappear every so often. There's still work to be done.
Of course, have you started traveling to Midle's village, or are you still in Port Dakota?
We're organising some troops at the moment. We've only just received those Bulblins that you have sent our way.
Ah, I see. I don't think I've mentioned those. To the group.
Because this is on speaker stone, Rickshaw's like goes, what?
It's like, oh yeah, remember we said we solved a problem with some mercenaries. Yeah, they're helping out in Sokoza.
Reconstruction.
Yeah, they're big.
Oh dear. Risha goes, yes, I'm here as best as I can be. Please continue. And Rufus nods and kind of looks past everyone to the door, and then seeing that Uriel isn't there yet, looks back to everyone gathered and says, well, I believe then what we need to do is we need to come up with some form of plan in order to deal with this. As noted by my brother, The usual legends that we would come to rely on as a nation are no longer valid. This is something entirely new, and thus we need to deal with it as if it is entirely new. And with that, I would like everybody, prior to rolling initiative, edit the sheet and change the stat to charisma as opposed to dexterity, and then roll initiative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is it?
How do?
I don't know how it's done on D&D Beyond.
I think what I'm gonna.
I don't think it's possible. But let's see.
If you
Initiative-
want to roll dexterity and then change the number based on what your charisma modifier is, that also works as well.
I don't
Sure.
have any buffs to initiative or whatever, so I'm just gonna make a charisma check.
Okay. So I'll add you to the chat.
If my charisma thing is, if it counts as for the Eagle Splendor, that's a 23.
I think initiative is a check, so
Yes,
that
it
should-
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I think my check would be plus 13 total. So that is a 27.
Okay. Good. Cool. Excellent. And I will roll a couple of things as we. I'm not going to roll initiative for every noble at the table, but I'm just going to roll a couple of things here.
Mhm.
Rolled really well, all things considered.
Yeah.
Wait, should I have rolled with advantage because of this being
Yes.
a charisma check?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay,
did.
then. 30.
Yay.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So, King Rufus represents the royals. Rickshaw represents the nobles as a whole.
I know what kind of hole.
Damn it.
Gotcha there.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Didn't Zayden have an 18, not a 15?
That's because Dex to charisma.
Oh,
His charisma is lower because.
did you also? I was going to say you roll with advantage. Yeah, that's good.
I have my stick of warning anyway. I get initiative.
Yeah. Okay. So, the conversation is going to be as such. On your turn, you have 3 potential main actions, but you can improvise as you go. You can either coerce someone with a straight check, and upon success of that, you will be able to coerce. You can only coerce one person at a time as you do this conversation, but you'll add a check against them as you do so. In order for them to be fully on your side for whatever plan you intend, you need to have 3 checks for that. You can alternatively set up. You can use some kind of parlance or hypothetical or anything to set somebody up to then give someone else on your side advantage when they try and coerce them. Or you can roll insight in order to get a clue as to what might be able to better convince them to target them for an easier DC for the skill.
Whereas setup or insight.
Yeah. However, much like everything else, you can improvise. If there's something that you think of that might be beneficial towards this, you're able to do so. But before we start down the initiative list, Rufus will begin by saying to you, the people who know all of this better, what exactly, given the nature of what we are facing, what did you have in mind? Did you have a plan?
As these words echo against the stone walls. Renji gets up once again. It is highly likely that our enemy is going to go for an all-out attack to make Hyrule its own and plunge it into darkness. As such, we need to be of one mind. And I'm going to try and attack, or course, Lord Rickshaw here to cow him into going along. That would be a
Whichever charisma-based skill that you would like to use.
Sure.
If you want to try and like intimidate him into the hypothetical, you can do intimidate, persuade for persuade, that sort of thing.
I think I will be persuading here.
Okay.
Oh, that was a 3 on the die. But no, a 5 on the die. 22.
22. So with the 22, he kind of like clocks on that that you are attempting to kind of like put more focus on him. You don't roll bad enough that he takes it badly, but he kind of like taps a finger on the table and says, well, of course, united front is exactly what we're looking for here. But that doesn't answer the question on what it is that we're looking to do. All out assault, yes, but
Yes, this is also why I'd wished our Lord of the Arcane were here to discuss means of magically approaching the threat.
okay. It is unclear as to whether or not you have acquired an appropriate checkmark against Rickshaw.
Understood.
Max.
We have a muted Max.
I'm just gonna point out the fact that this guy's the villain's main thing is raising things from the dead, and then ask how many cemeteries there are inside the castle walls and the castle town walls.
Okay. Is that
I think this will be set up.
okay? So give me then a. Oh, that's a good question. Give for me your choice of persuasion or religion, charisma religion.
Persuasion, because I'm proficient in it. 28.
Yay!
Okay. With a 28, there's another pause. And Das is the one who speaks up and says, yes, there are a lot of cemeteries within the castle walls alone. Allowing any influence to get into Castletown is going to be a unfortunate aspect, especially considering the resources that we have available when fighting against the undead.
And it also means that just sitting in here and having them attack the walls isn't an option, because they'll be able to appear inside.
Congratulations, you have an advantage the next time someone attempts to coerce Lord Das.
Yeah.
Okay. Hikan.
I think the question still kind of burns, considering that we've brought up the aspect of cemeteries being inside the walls, and we thought about it being a united front. I think Hikan will first adjust in his chair. He's sitting cross-legged now, and then say, I think it would be a good idea to go to some of the other places and get some allies before we kind of, the four of us, lead a assault on the on Nazgrada directly.
Okay.
And I would kind of like that plan, given that it was a question that everyone was waiting for. I kind of want to get an insight on... Ooh, who do I want to insight? Fuck it, I'll insight Rickshaw. See what would be the best thing, especially because I directly answered his question.
Okay. Give me an insight check then, please.
Okay. Natural 20, 31.
Nice. The moment you bring up the idea of like request aid from allies outside, request help from people that we know, that sort of thing, you can see his face twist a bit. The general notion of like, because you know Rickshaw in particular has a big thing about Hyrulean sovereignty. It's clear that he kind of finds the idea not like hideously distasteful, it's just that he'd rather not. But you can tell that essentially, you can also tell that the way that he kind of twists a bit is that Rickshaw basically is the type of person who needs to be beaten down verbally into a corner he cannot escape from. He will acquiesce, but only if he has no other options. Essentially, like, you'd have to, if you can get all the others to kind of like chime in and agree to that, he will fall like a domino. Which is made all the easier because as you kind of look back across the table briefly after getting a read on Rickshaw, you can see Milrose like smiles widely at the suggestion of, oh, yes, aid from outside. Great idea. Yeah.
Yes, more stuff.
Rufus and the royals at the end of the table kind of like look to each other and confer slightly, and Rufus says, that would honestly be a welcome idea. I think unity across this nation would be for the benefit of all, regardless of if there is this current circumstance coming our way. Amaris kind of nods along. Sophia even speaks up and says, as someone who has had to spend some time among the people because of circumstances outside of her control, yes, I concur. Additional aid would be for the benefit of this situation. So you definitely have support from the royal family. Zayden.
I forget, who was the lord of the agriculture stuff?
Barstum at the top here.
I believe that Zayden and Barston have a good friendship going for the number of times he's cast the crop growth spell.
Oh yeah.
So I would like to, Zayden would like to focus his efforts on getting him on side. I don't know quite what he'd say, but
Okay.
I suppose summoning fields of undead is very bad for crop health.
Yeah.
They tend to corrupt everything.
Hard to get bone
Yeah.
meal when, the bones are still on the move and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, give me a persuasion or a nature charisma check.
Persuasion. 12.
Oh. You kind of like bring this up to Barstum, and he nods a little bit but says, well, there's thing about that is I agree with you. I do. The problem that we have is mostly just supplying food to the people of this city alone, let alone the rest of the country. And that kind of leads into the nobles beginning to talk. And Boston looks over and says, I understand, at least, the idea that a siege ain't going to be something that's going to happen all that soon. But thing is, though, if there is a siege, it's a big old city, and there's not a lot of farmland within the city itself. With the farms on the outside of the wall, we'd have to bring everybody in, and that means that whatever food reserves we have by the end of it, that's kind of what we got. And I don't think you have the, as powerful as you might be, my friend, I don't think you have the magical potential in order to feed the entire city constantly throughout a siege, eh? And Milrose just kind of like taps the table and is like, but that's the thing, we wouldn't be alone in this. It's exactly as Hikan says. We can speak to the Zora, we can speak to the Gorons. Hells, we could possibly even try and speak to the Gerudo if needs be. This is a threat that threatens us all. We should be asking them for help and helping them in turn. It's the whole point of community. And Rickshaw just kind of looks down the table and says, well, yes, but you have to understand, there's only so much that one nation can do, even if we are that one nation. There's a lot that rides on this, and there's only so many of us that have powers beyond comprehension. And in addition to that, we've also been at the tail end of a centuries-long civil war. There's only, the capability that we can really aid ourselves, and even then, that's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? Das will then speak up and say, but they are correct in their assessment of this being an appropriate threat. It really depends, I think, whether or not there's when this attack will come, if at all, and if it does, what form it takes. We need to know what our enemy is to plan appropriately, and while we know that they are capable of summoning the undead, we need to be sure how they're going to go about it. Bastum, I understand your concerns in regards to food for a siege, but if there's, well, the walls are tall and strong, but if the magic can reach inside and create enemies from within, then there won't be a siege. We'll have to simply deal with the hand that we are dealt at the time. Farnsworth remains quiet and is kind of like listening to everybody at the table. Whitestone is still looking at the table, somewhat despondent. He appears to be listening, but he doesn't weigh in any capacity as the argument kind of goes through. Risha, after some brief delay on the other end of the sending stone, says, we also need to understand what it is that we're going to be focusing our troops. Allies or no, we're split, as it were. A lot of our men are currently out here in the west. If the attack appears at Castletown, then we are down a significant number of our forces. It's difficult to organize an army when we don't know where they're going to be. And yeah, that will be round one done. Renji.
I hear your points, I do. The Storm's Eye, we're maybe only the tip of the spear when it comes to dealing with this. However, you all are the hands that wield that spear. And I understand, Lord Rickshaw, that you say, and that you make the point that there's only so much one kingdom can do. However, all of the effort spent on maintaining safety and maintaining order during this time of civil war can now, or rather within not too long a time, be spent on this effort. Lady Risha, I don't mean to rush you, but I hope that soon you'll have good tidings for us and for the kingdom as a whole in reporting the response of Midal's village.
What are you attempting to do with this?
I think this is a setup.
Okay.
Kind of like all of the things that have been discussed already. They're valid concerns, but they are, or at least the concern of like what can one nation, one kingdom do, and then going like, well, we've already dealt with one drain on our coffers. That can be relegated for the meantime to deal with the Nazgradar threat.
Who are you setting up?
I'm thinking Max.
No, who are you setting up against?
Yep.
Which lord?
Oh, right. I think that is a good question. I think Lady Milrose, because she's in trade and logistics.
Okay. Very well. If that is the case, it's one of those days when I feel like I could just law economy. No, that's Pathfinder. Give me a persuasion check then.
If it's a persuasion check, I might just do that as a coerce.
Okay.
Wrong shift. 22 again.
Oh no, your dice have a favorite number.
They
Yeah.
do. They do. Luckily, however, this is one of the this is a point of you managed to clock onto a point of advantage here. You've touched on a button that Milrose already agrees with, so the DC on this would be lower. So as you mentioned, this is this with the war coming to an end and the cartel gone, that means that we can get back to trade. And like there's an aspect where Milrose is like, oh yes, trade, the economy, of course, absolutely. That's the yes. Actually. It's clear that in this whole process of trying to deal with Nazgradar and the threat upon the kingdom, her role as the lady of trade completely out the fucking window. But it's but as you remind her of that, she's like, oh yes, that is good for the economy. Yes, that, and
Yeah,
like, points
I
you
get
into.
Oh yeah, money.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, my job.
Yeah, so you have successfully
I
acquired
would like
a check
to make
mark.
the money less sad.
Yeah, you've successfully acquired a check mark against Lady Milrose.
Good.
Max.
How much of the nature of Nazgradar as a lich do we know?
You know that.
We know these like the sword is tied to reality and all that.
Yeah.
The soul anchor.
Do we know that if defeating him will make the rest of the army less viable?
I would say that
Because we know he's directly controlling all of them. We've
Yeah.
learned that.
Yeah, you would, because Nazgradar's big thing as a master of undead is that he's attempting to basically supplant free will with his own. It's the reason why you have Puhaku. It's
Yes.
like why that Stalfos was not viable for Nazgradar is because that Stalfos could think for itself.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, Max
you
is gonna
Yeah.
point out the fact that Nazgûl's army can't think for itself. It only works if he is working. So we basically we don't need to destroy the entire undead army. We need to get rid of him first.
okay.
So that is giving them, we have a direct target when it shows up. It's the main one.
Okay. Are you attempting to coerce or set up a specific lord?
I think we need to coerce someone, but I don't know which one would be the best to coerce with this.
You still have an
What is-
advantage against Das, but
What's Whitestone Lord of again? I forget.
law.
Law. Okay.
I don't really know how to appeal to that.
Hmm,
I think I'm just gonna.
maybe Lady
I
Risha?
think I'm just gonna get Das on side so that we definitely have one of them.
Okay. So give me a persuasion.
20.
20.
Yes, you do have advantage. Thank goodness.
Yeah. And much like Milrose, as you kind of clock onto the whole undead threat sort of thing, and like Lich, this is target, this will get rid of all the undead in a larger capacity, Dusk kind of nods slightly and says, that would mean that we would have some kind of direction for yourself as well as anybody else that we might need to send to deal with them. Cut the head off, the body dies with it. So you now have a check mark against Lord Das. Okay. Hikan.
I think Hikan's gaze goes from Rickshaw and some of the others over towards Lord Whitestone, and he doesn't say anything, but I want to get an insight on Whitestone, considering
Okay.
Whitestone seems to be still grieving.
Yeah. Okay, give me insight.
Here we go. 24.
Yeah. It's clear that he's present, but you are correct. He is still grieving his son. It's especially given the circumstances by which his son had passed away, and possibly like reports and information and everything as to how his soul was put to rest, that sort of thing. He doesn't look like he's going to interject in any fashion. What you do pull with the 24 is that something is definitely on his mind, but he's not willing to say it. He might need a bit of encouragement.
Okay, I'll keep that in my pocket.
Okay. Rufus will kind of nod a bit and say, right, so we have a direction then. That's good. But Sophitia will then add in, say, but well, we do need to know exactly where he's going to be. And of course, if it's all well and good knowing where we need to aim, but we would need to, or what we need to aim at, but we still need to be capable of getting you to him. It's a matter of importance that you are able to reach them without expending too much effort trying to get through his forces. And she'll look to the others at the table. She'll look to the ascending stone as if it's actually Risha, and saying, perhaps you might have some suggestions, Lady of Defense. But yeah, Risha will pipe up later on. Zayden. What I'll do is I'll put little dots so you know who you've got a check mark against.
So I don't know. I think we'd continue trying to convince Lord Barston. Like, if he's obviously he's worried about if there'll be enough food, but when this the attack will happen either way. It's better to be ready for it and make the necessary preparations rather than. Because if they don't, then there'll be certainly not enough.
Give me another persuasion.
25.
Oh, that's good. Barston nods a little bit and starts to relent and says, I suppose that's right.
You think of it like a bad winter is coming.
You make it sound almost pleasant by comparison. Which, like with a smile on his face, he will have a check mark against him too. Yeah. Okay. And with that, Rickshaw will kind of put elbows on the table and say, well, right. So we have a direction, we have a target. That's good. That's good. But there is the matter of course, facilitating that. It's going to take a lot of people and a lot of work to do. Crane will speak up and say, well, I think it would be best to understand exactly where he's going to be. We can, facilitate the creation of a lot of siege weaponry if it's out in the field, or fortify the castle walls and the town walls and everything. I have plenty of ideas. After all, there are certain flaws when it comes to the fortification of Castle Town. The waterways, for one. If we are to kind of like raise like a pacifying hand against towards Dust and say, if we are to assume in this instance that they are unable to summon forth the undead within the city, we would need to be able to keep enemies out again. So I have plenty of. It will just take. It will admittedly take a lot of time and capital to do. Farnsworth kind of looks over and says, oh, "But there's only so much money and so much time and so many people. I think it would be best if," and he like there's a side eye glance towards Milrose and then Das and then Barston and says, maybe it would be a good idea if Jaina then speaks up quite timidly and says, to ask the others for help. And Farnsworth is like, yes, ask the others for help. You see, it is a solid idea to ask for aid in this instance. Perhaps, maybe, those Gorons have some form of novel idea. I say this and look at his token again and think maybe I should be doing a Revolver Ocelot impression given his hairstyle and mustache choice, but never mind. But yeah, this gun is the best gun ever. Yeah.
I think I'm more of a Nigel Thornberry character.
I can't. I've tried in the past. I can't do a Tim Curry. I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Rickshaw just kind of rolls his eyes a bit as things carry on. Rickshaw will then say to the Sending Stone, say, do you have much experience with coordinating forces of differing cultures, Lady Risha? Did your father, perhaps? There's a pointed silence after that question is aired. And it carries on to the start of initiative again. Renji.
I'll try and not make the silence as stifling. Lord Farnsworth brings up a good point to reach out to the Gorons. I believe, Lord Dr. Crane, you have personal connections as well.
Oh, yes, I do. still waiting on his latest move. But yes.
Yes, I understand. I do not mean to be too bold here, but aside from official diplomatic channels, would it be possible for you to bring up the subject with your contacts? And I'm going to persuade him. Let's try and hit a little higher than 5.
Come on, guys.
25.
I mean, it is a little bit higher.
For the listeners, that was a natural 1 and an 8.
Okay.
Oh dear. You kind of like edge him on a bit, and Crane goes, maybe. I don't know whether or not he's the has as much sway as we would like him to, but I'm sure he'd be able to pass on that information to the chiefs and whatnot.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, he will also have a check mark against him. But yeah, congratulations, Max.
We need to start laying siege to Rickshaw.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm going over to everyone else and
Yeah.
just bully Rickshaw into supporting us.
What's this point before? Something about I forgot what he said in this last bunch of talking.
Was it about the coordinating forces of different cultures jab?
Yeah. I don't know if Max is smart enough to think of anything for it.
That's okay. You could always attempt to set up someone for it.
Yeah, but I want to just like kill him or something.
Verbally. I want to just kill myself verbally, like this knife. What?
It's like you ask if Lady Risha has experience managing people of different cultures. Look him dead in the eyes. Have you tried?
Ooh.
I would like to intimidate him.
Go for it.
To try and coerce him. 28.
28. Oh, nice. Rickshaw kind of like shrinks back a bit, and
if I recall, it was managed with us. And points it towards the Sheikah next to me.
And it's like,
and he was involved with that, so he can try and take credit for it. I'm setting him up for that.
Yeah, you put him in a corner. That's brilliant. I love it.
Yay!
He has to stay true to his bullshit principles, or stay true to his other bullshit principles. It's great.
Which bullshit principles will you favor?
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah, with that he's rendered speechless, and will kind of like
flounder about a bit.
Yeah, he'll flounder about a bit, but you believe that at this point in time, he's now trapped in a situation that he can't get out. He effectively has a check mark against him.
His check mark is like slightly falling off.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
You can see the double-sided tape it's stuck with.
Yeah, nice work. Hikan.
I don't know what this would be, but Hikan simply says, Lord Whitestone, you've been quiet. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Cool. Give me Give me a persuasion check, but this one will be slightly easier because it's not essentially asking him to do something for the sake of this whole thing. You're just asking him to speak.
Okay. Here we go. +1. Lowest persuasion. 11.
11. Okay. Whitestone will look up briefly at you and then think a moment and say, one thing that needs to be understood in this moment is that this news, as far as I can understand it, it hasn't reached many ears beyond these walls. I imagine from your descriptions that the signs of this coming torment will not exactly be subtle. We would need some form of plan in order to allow the people to remain calm, to be able to operate safely. Not to mention the fact that, well, the Sovereign Hand may still have its claws in the hearts and minds of certain members of the public who would fall prey to their damaging dogma. In all of this entirety, let us simply assume that that the enemy is outside the walls, even without the presence or the chance of the enemy appearing among all of us. We have to figure out a way to inform the people, but keep them calm. A panic would be just as deadly as a skeleton with a sword would be, and the guards are already stretched thin, guarding the wall, especially if there's going to be an enemy about. How do we propose to deal with that? And yeah. Rufus goes into deep thought. Says, that is a valid point. As he said, that's a valid point. Das will kind of nod a little bit and say, faith, as heretical as this might be for me to say, is oftentimes irrational. One cannot operate always on a clear mind when an aspect of faith is emotion. As I'm sure in the case of the people of Mazro, it took them being actively kidnapped in order for them to see the light, and by that point, for half of them, it was already too late. But given what we have just managed to begin accomplishing, finally ending the Civil War, we need to handle this with the utmost care. We cannot say that we have successfully coerced the rebelling villages back into the fold, or to have peaceful ties and then immediately send out the stormtroopers, which I hope we do not have. He has a bit of a side glance to Whitestone. Whitestone just kind of waves a hand dismissively and says, best not to joke about that one, old friend. We don't have stormtroopers. Never did. And Das kind of nods.
That's oddly anachronistic.
Yeah. Das nods and continues on, saying, we simply need to be able to allay the people's fears that this will be handled. Zayden. Farnsworth and Whitestone are the only two people who currently do not have a check mark against them. I'm Risha, technically.
Um, what were their fields again?
Farnsworth is the Lord of Civics and the Populace. Whitestone is the Lord of Law. Lady Risha is the Lady of Defence.
I guess, was Lord Farnsworth the one talking about how to prepare the people?
Whitestone was.
Yeah, Whitestone was. Farnsworth is basically just hopping on the bandwagon of anybody who has a convincing enough opinion.
I guess Zidon will go with suggesting to Lord Whitestone that the best way to prepare for a disaster is sometimes just to run drills, and while the subject matter might be a bit difficult, you could still align it with a slightly less chaotic mean. It would mean, in the case of any emergency, that the people are still practiced on what necessary actions need to be undertaken.
Okay. Give me a persuasion check.
How to invent the concept of the fire drill.
21.
21. He thinks about it for a moment. It's hard to tell if you have a check mark against him. He feels like he said his piece and is now just contemplating the conversation again. As you do, through a series of hurried footsteps on stone halls, there's appearing in the doorway in his glorious golden robes and his curly blonde hair and mustache, says, you have my apologies. I didn't mean to take so much time, says Uriel the Gilded as he hurries over and sits down. Doesn't bother bowing to anybody. He just kind of like flops in a chair. So, well, ain't this fancy? Might I ask, what did I miss?
Pretty much everything so far.
We're talking about how to like defend the city and stuff.
Oh, I see.
Plans against a lich and its forces against Hyrule.
Very well.
We were hoping you had some ideas as to, what is the word? Locate and transport.
Well, locating a lich is a little difficult compared to most things. If, I don't think he would have been... Have you fully appraised Uriel on the aspects of, like, the stuff that you just told the rest of the room? How informed is Uriel? I
Not
can't
fully,
remember.
no. I
think he knows we've been fighting lots of undead.
Yeah.
And he saw the banner that we had from the Arbiter.
I think he was there, or at least there for part of when we briefed Lady Risha after coming back from the Plane of Lament, because he had to help us come back with the Spelljammer.
Yeah, he knows
Okay.
about the Plane of Lament stuff.
Yeah.
Uriel, why did you let the cat in?
I'm sorry. I'm going through a lot of familiars at the moment. I just need to...
Haven't settled on one?
No, not yet.
I understand.
Let's see, your lich problem. Well, see, liches are pretty dang, well, academically smart in their way. If they had the wherewithal to, they probably had protected themselves against scrying. Non-detection's a pretty nifty spell when you come down to it. But, well, that would make it difficult to locate him. But that's depending on whether or not he's even on this plane. Judging by the presence of the Plane of Lament, I'm gonna hazard a guess and say that he's probably there for a while before he feels comfortable enough coming back here.
I have a question.
Sure.
The ship we found to get back. Can it be used to, like, detect if something's coming through from a different plane?
Not ordinarily. It has the framework for something like that, but it would take a little bit longer for me to do.
Is there any other way of doing that?
He kind of like ums and ahs about it. Well,
'Cause,
in
like,
many
he could not detect himself, but maybe not necessarily his entire army.
That's true. That is true. Well, my thinking is this. He wants control of the undead. So, where would be the largest concentration of dead?
We were discussing cemeteries.
Max is just looking at the Undead Lords.
If I had to give a guess, probably the battlefields of the Civil War, given that's kind of what feels like the Plane of Lament or similar to it right now.
Probably gonna be it then. At least that's where he aims to pop up.
So it'll probably at least be coming from that direction.
That would make a bunch of sense. If, question is, would then he be dedicated to a singular direction? Would he be aiming to throw everything he has at Hyrule Castle Town, as it were? Or would he spread out in all directions to cause as much chaos as possible? After all, there are a fair few settlements out in the west. He might be able to shore up the number of forces he has before he descends on anything else.
Would it be like an inside check or something to try and figure out if he would, like, prioritize the biggest threat first?
Yes.
Only 14.
Okay. It's hard to say. You're all welcome to roll it as well if you would like to, but with a 14, it's difficult to say if that's the kind of thing that he would attempt to do. Because it's also like, Nazgradar by definition is the oldest thing that you have encountered. So what he values might be slightly different. If he believes that the Triforce in and of itself is a valid threat, then he would throw everything he has at Castletown to try and acquire it or destroy it. If he believes, however, that you are the biggest threat, then he'll attack wherever he believes you are, which, depending on his capability to scry, he might have a clear idea as to where you've gone. It's
See if we can get some more information.
Yeah.
Nope.
Do I go for that as well?
Go for it.
Here goes. 16.
About the same, unfortunately.
Yeah, makes sense.
We're all rolling instead.
Yeah. If you would like to roll insight.
20.
Okay. With a 20, from what you can understand, his acquisition of Mara was basically his biggest priority. And now that he has Mara, there's a decent chance that he... There's a decent chance that he feels appropriately invincible enough. After all, when he was first a problem, his biggest contender was Hylia and the First Link. That was kind of it. And even then, it required a castle full of soldiers and 5 separate wizards in order to try and seal him away, because they couldn't find a way to kill him. He might be under the impression that with Samaria kept in an alternate dimension and unable to escape, that you represent the sum total of the biggest problem that he's got, but he might not see you that way. With that being said, maybe there's a possibility he might start out in the West where all the battle and death occur, with the largest sum total of bodies that he can acquire in the shortest amount of time. And then he might, from that, simply just go wherever he wants. And chances are, he might well go to Hyrule Castle Town, because it represents the biggest settlement, the biggest body count, the biggest obstacle. It would send a message if he could actively take out Hyrule Castle Town, Triforce or not. Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Renji. This will be the last round of check marking stuff before effectively a vote is cast and a plan ratified.
I feel like we should have gotten in on a different tack of discussion. You can see Renji kind of thinking for a moment, pinching the bridge of his nose. Lords, lady, each of you has a seat and a voice on this council. We four have but one voice, even though we speak with all four of our tongues. We do not have a fully thought out plan to deal with this crisis. That is why we've come to the king, and the king has thought it wise to have your thoughts, not to shoot down ideas, but to rather bring your own. Lord Whitestone, you mentioned that faith may be irrational. If you think of it semantically, if you have thought that is based not on logic or evidence, but on what you believe, then it is by definition irrational. That is not a bad thing. We need the people's faith that we will come out of this, the other end, as good and as well as can be expected. The people look to you as head and defender of that faith. Lord Barstorm, your concerns are very valid. It is fair that you should think and concern yourself about keeping people fed and keeping fields to grow. Everyone here has their task in this coming conflict. As I said, we are merely the tip of the spear. We all are part of those wielders of that spear. Trying to see if I can find where the list of everyone's domains are again.
So it should be in GM resources, town notes, Hyrule Castle Town, the Court of Hyrule.
It's like right at the top.
Right on the top. Ah, yes. Rose, Commerce, Whitestone Law. Das is Lord of the Faith. I mistook the two of them.
That's fine.
Just pretend you said Lord Das instead.
Yes, let's do that. I think Lord Whitestone and Lord Dr. Crane, you could also talk amongst yourselves to see if you have ideas on an engineering level to deal with public discontent and disorder. But I think the main thing here is to find, as the king has said, common ground in how we deal with this rather than shoot down possible ideas or bring up possible concerns before we even have plans to deal with this. And I'm trying to set up currently against Lord Whitestone.
Mhm.
Okay.
That will be a persuasion check.
Yeah.
That is a 25. I've really rolled below 10s all this entire thing. A 17, but still.
That just makes all the stuff you put into it worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lord Whitestone nods. His eyes still on the table. It's entirely possible that you might have advantage on him in your next try and coerce him. Max.
Thank you.
Hello?
I'm thinking.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I don't know how to convince people in real life.
It's
So,
okay. It's all good.
Just look at someone angry and just point to Renji, what he said.
Do you want some more time to think?
Yeah, I'll delay my turn until after Hikan's.
Okay. You can.
So Hikan, doing his best to try to split his focus, absolutely fails, and actually asks the Harp of the Goddess, if I use cores of the prime material, do we get to choose where they come from? Or where they go to?
The harp will respond to say that essentially the way it works is that you pull them from anywhere that isn't the prime material plane into its equivalent space in the prime material plane. So if you were to say go to the plane of fire and use it on someone after traveling like west for 5 hours, then wherever that equivalent location is on the prime material where you came from, that's where you would end up, even if that's in the middle of the ocean.
Hikan looks around at the table and starts by asking, what if we could pick where he goes when he arrives?
Oh, that would make a big difference.
Because the gift that was given to us by King Rufus has that ability if we can get to him in his home space. That's the hard part. If we can pick where he's coming into, or where he's coming here to, we can make it so it's a place decently away from the castle, looking at Lord Whitestone and Lord Barstone. We can make sure that it's in a place where there's siege weaponry or whatever people might want to have in support, whether that's allies or other things. I look at the stone much like Sophidia did, as if Risha's really there, and I look at Milrose and Dr. Crane.
Mm-hmm.
But that would involve us going back to the Plane of Lament, which we can use the ship thing for, right? Asking Uriel and the arcane people in the group.
Could be.
Uriel thinks a bit and then nods slightly and says, well, it would be easy. It would take a little bit of time to make sure that to be absolutely sure that the Spelljammer is space worthy, but at a push, if we don't have that, as long as we have something that can connect us to the Plane of Lament, like a physical thing, then maybe we can use that as a tuning fork to get you straight there with the plane shift spell.
If we do use the Spelljammer again, can we have something to power it up? Because last time it took like all my magic to get us back.
Uriel thinks, yes, I think I might be able to accommodate that.
I'm gonna need some of my magic to get power back.
So then a plan to deal with this directly could be gathering allies to help where they can, picking a space to attack, and then bringing him here. Does that sound good? And I don't know what that would be, but part of me wants to try to course. I know the easy one to course would be Lady Risha, because that is wartime planning, but I kind of want to try to course Lord Whitestone.
Okay. Give me a persuasion check.
Yeah. Mostly with the idea that we'll be taking this away from Hyrule Castle Town, and it would be during an assault.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, persuasion. 11.
He remains.
I don't know if we have advantage on Whitestone because of Renji's thing.
Roll for me again.
Okay. Well.
You kind of get like you. Yeah, Whitestone remains focused on the table. It's hard to see whether or not you have convinced him or not.
I'm gonna follow up. I also follow it up with just looking at him and saying, Is it not better to over-prepare than to not prepare at all and just lose anyway?
Give me persuasion.
We should at least try. Accidentally clicked it twice, goddammit,
Yeah.
30.
Still a 30.
It's fine.
Accidental double click, sorry.
That's all right. Still 30. It's all good.
Yeah.
So, he turns slightly to look at you and then looks back at the table and says, "That is sound logic." And he will have his check mark.
Wonderful.
Rufus will then kind of clarify the plan and say, so, plan would be to locate the enemy in his home plane, drag him to ours in a place that is of our choosing, and then deal with him there. Am I understanding that?
Nodding.
Hikan nods.
And we'll then look to Zayden for any final remarks before it turns to the Lords.
So I didn't have any remarks, but I'm confused why Uriel doesn't have a tick mark.
Because he only just turned up. Essentially, he
reason
does
Arisha
have his
doesn't.
he does have his own concerns, but if you think about this in a democratic fashion, we'll see. Like, it depends. Uriel's vote depends entirely on what your plan is at the end of the day, because he turned up so late. But yeah, he's our little wild card in this particular instance.
Yeah, technically, I don't think he counts with the marks thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so your currently unconvinced folks are supposedly unconvinced, are Lady Risha and Lord Farnsworth, but they also depend mostly on what it is your plan of action is. So if you want to absolutely positively secure a vote in your favour, then your objective would be to try and convince one of those two.
I think we're fine, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think so. We've been dealing with Lady Risha for a while. She's well informed, and Lord Farnsworth is a putz.
Yeah, the way of convincing Lady Risha at this point is probably just looking at the Senate and going, sound good?
Yeah. Oh man. As you kind of like present this plan, thoughts around the table kind of begin manifesting. The first one is Lady Risha, who would say, that is a surprising advantage that we then have in that instance. It's not often in war that we are capable of placing our enemy where we choose them, especially so efficiently. Crane says, yes, and we would then be able to properly make efficient weaponry and siege warfare if we knew the exact terrain as to where we needed to be. Das then adds in, and if he requires bodies as he goes, if we pull him into a location of our desire, then he would be distracted in our attacking on him and his forces would be diminished. Bastum. And if he's nowhere near Castletown, then we don't have to worry too much about a siege, if that's true. Whitestone adds, we can quell fear quite efficiently if we can assure people that this threat is nowhere near their homes. Farnsworth immediately, yeah, sound points, all sound points.
Here.
Here. Uriel kind of thinks about it and says, and it would be the efficient use of magic in turn. We wouldn't have to worry too much about outfitting too many of our soldiers if we can basically put most of our magical efficiency on effectively where the guy's standing. And then all eyes turn to Rickshaw, who's like, well, I suppose it is the best that we are capable of doing, as one would expect from the eminent skills and minds of the Kingdom of Hyrule. And Rufus just kind of looks over and smiles at
and under his breath, Vash just says, "You're welcome."
Rufus kind of looks to his siblings and then like, that's unanimous, I think. But yes, okay, a plan of action. We have one. Excellent. Well, that was very productive. Please, since we're all seated and around a table, perhaps some food. Yes, food. In looking to Impa. Impa kind of smiles and rolls her eyes and says, I'll go get the cooks, don't worry, and we'll wander off. This is your last chance. You got one opportunity. What do you have that spice? What do you do? Do you get up and leave? Do you hand it to Impa? What's the plan?
Go outside and excuse yourself to go to the bathroom. Do it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I think Zygon will just take the thing. The matters are. I need to take care of some personal matters a moment as well, and walk alongside Impa.
Hell yeah.
Chef's kiss.
As you go, Impa just kind of like sees you keeping pace. He goes, "What are you planning?"
I thought.
I simply wish to introduce some new flavors to Lord Rickshaw's diet.
Well, I was thinking Lord Rickshaw should come to understand a bit of a more point of view of a foreign culture, such as the Gorons, as he'll pull out some Goron spice.
Impa will kind of like raise a brow and look at the spice, look at you, look at the spice again, look at you again, and just shakes her head. It's like, I've had a day, let's do it. And just kind of goes.
Impa are cooking up some stuff. I would like to stand up and say, pardon me for treading on etiquette here. This is the first time I've been a part of such a council, but I did wish to give my thanks to the words of Lord Rickshaw and thank him specifically for the words he just said about how this council truly is the best of that Hyrule has to offer.
Max is just going to sit with his hand covering his mouth.
It gladdens my heart to, as a Sheikah, be part of this. Truly. Is this a performance or a persuasion check to kind of like layer this so that everyone knows like what I mean? However, I am still too polite to say anything against it.
Performance.
Performance. Okay. I do still have advantage here.
Yeah.
27!
Nice.
Finally.
Natural 19 on the die.
Some good fucking rolls.
Yeah. Where it matters most.
Yes.
But yes,
Yes.
you do his performance check, and immediately Farnsworth like raises his glass. Here, yes.
You know, I also had a thought that, as well as the Goron spice, I apparently have a lot of spices from various other places. Sort of aromatic spices not native to Hyrule. So I was thinking, if everyone has like a pleasantly spicy dish, then it just makes him look even worse when he can't handle spice.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's good.
Do it.
That's really
Do
good.
good spices for everyone except
Yeah.
him.
So it is that you head off to deal with to attend to the food, as it were. It after a few moments, you, Impa, and a line of cooks come out with these meals, these beautifully prepared meals, all with different tinges to them because of the spices that have been added. And Impa will say, a little extra has been added to these meals just for the sake of people's personal tastes and understanding that this is a unanimous occasion. It's been a while, if I believe, since we've had a council like this, and a unanimous vote as well. And Rufus nods, smiles. He's completely innocent in this entire ordeal. He just nods and smiles.
He's just like, yay, everyone's getting along.
And after Amarius kind of raises the glass, says, "To Hyrule and its people." And there's a chorus of "To Hyrule and its people" from everyone around the table. And they take a sip, put the thing down, and begin to dig into the food. And Reshot on the other end is like, "Boy, that sounds really nice. Save me a plate when I get back from this. Thank you. I'm going to deal with work now."
Good luck. There will be food aplenty when you return.
Just gonna look over and say, Hikan will make something for you.
Yeah.
And the Sending Stone goes silent. Everyone kind of sits down and begins eating. So, ooh, it's very, like, they all kind of have this rather pleasant experience with this whole thing. Rickshaw.
Yeah. What about him?
That's a natural 3 on the die.
I imagine the man's constitution isn't very good because it's spicy thing eating his bread.
Oh, that was was Keysmith roboty for everyone else, or
Everybody's robot-y.
Robot time.
No.
Oh no, it's Discord.
No. Hold on.
You're ruining it.
Yes. 5,000 millisecond thing.
Oh no. It's the spice, it was too much.
It's too
Wait,
spicy.
no.
You're back.
We're back.
We're
Okay,
back.
I was saying that
Excellent.
this is probably even worse for him because the spiciest thing he's probably eaten before this is bread.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, this is a lot for a man whose spice level tops out at mayonnaise.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rickshaw. He takes a moment. He enjoys the taste. It's a pleasant meal. It has a nice kick to it, and like
Keeps on kicking.
he turns to have a conversation with Farnsworth, and suddenly his tongue is he's just like scrabbling at his throat as like his face turns red. He takes the glass of wine, shaking, and tries to drink it.
As he's about to drink it, I'm gonna use prestidigitation to make the wine really warm. Just unpleasantly warm.
Seeing how this happens, I cough loudly to mask Max's spell. Is like, oh, this is intense. It's very good.
As like a couple of attendants go over to try and see if Rickshaw's okay. Input
I don't know what's wrong with him. It was tailored to his taste or whatever.
Impa goes over, like dips a finger in the food and tastes it. Like, well, it's not poison. Yes, with the slightest hint of a lisp.
Oh, that's spicy.
But yeah, you have a.
Matt says, "Let me try it. I want to try a bit. I want to try a bit the garlic spice."
Okay, give me a con roll. A con save.
Oh, come on. Can I use my inspiration to have advantage?
Yeah,
Okay, I beat him with 31.
yeah. So it does have quite the kick to it. It's a. It takes like a couple of seconds to kick in, and but by the time like your tongue begins to swell slightly and go numb, as does the back of your throat. Everything becomes really warm. It's you manage to maintain enough decorum that you kind of walk away from it being like with the
Just before it makes my tongue go down, I just say, "Not that hot."
yeah. Yeah, you'll have a pleasant meal at Lord Rickshaw's expense. Meanwhile, it is a dark night. It is a quiet night. As Kaikuana stands within the lamplight of the Artemark foundations, a number of the workers have long since gone to bed, but the effects of what's happening out west have started to take their toll. Some of the workers have up and abandoned the entire project. But work continues on, at the very least. You've almost completely cleared out the Artemark dungeon of all of its living, hostile residents. And with some finagling here and a good hammer smash there, a lot of the traps are also disabled too. If at a push, it won't be comfortable, but it would be a safe bunker away from everything if the worst comes about. But Kai, as you stand and watch over this area, just before you're about to retire to bed, a curious sight comes into view. Just on the edge of darkness, you see a green light, followed by another, and another, and another. They're coming from the west. What do you do?
Is there anyone else awake?
There are a couple of workers awake, yeah, and at least 2 guards.
Hey, could one of y'all get me a spyglass?
One of the workers nods.
And I'll try to take a closer look to see if the lights are approaching.
Hands you the spyglass. You look through. They do in fact appear to be approaching. There's a lot more now. But they're just disembodied lights from what you can see. From what you remember, at least from the things that you've discussed with the rest of the Storm's Eye and other adventures and instances besides, these are definitely Poes. They're heading straight for Artemark, but they're kind of moving in their own way.
Okay. Oh, I'm not smart with Kaikuana either.
Just a happy guy.
Yeah. I think all right. Here's what I want you guys to do. Tell them not to panic. Go get the rest of the workers and head into the dungeon for the bunker. We're gonna
Got
stay
it.
out here with the guards. I think that there's something going on over there with those lights. And I'd rather us be safe than sorry.
Workers nod. And they move off to rouse the others and move them into the dungeon. And keeping them safe, leaving you alone with the two guards as these lights approach.
All right, boys, let's do our jobs and see what this is all about, eh? And Kai will, whether or not they follow, Kai will begin approaching the lights.
Yeah. You begin approaching the lights, who are in turn approaching your direction. They begin closing in. 30 feet. 20 feet. 10 feet. 5 feet. Then they go past. They seem to ignore you as the lights swim past you like anglerfish in the dark, deep abyss of the ocean, just moving around you and ahead. As you turn and watch them go, you hear from the darkness behind you footsteps. Thunk, drag, thunk, drag. As you turn to see the source, you see what appears to be a singular zombie, which stops about 35 feet away from you.
I pull out my warhammer.
Okay.
Or my maul. Not my warhammer, my maul.
I have his warhammer.
Yeah, you do.
You pull out the maul. As you do, the jaw hangs open, and it says, "There is something familiar about you. I wonder, are you Kaikuana?"
Depends on who's asking.
Its memories contained a lot of information. It spent not much time with you compared to others. Interesting. Where are the others?
Not very intimidating either. I think Kai takes a long look, kind of debates the aspect of telling him where the others might be. Goes, this is Nosgrada, as my companions have told me about. I think that they might be finding you sooner than you can think. Sorry about the cat.
He goes, my reputation has preceded me, says a voice from a different direction, as from the edge of the darkness, another zombie stumbles forward and stops 35 feet away. So it is that they will come for me. I suppose I would welcome the attempt. But they should know that time is limited.
Say we call it peacefully here, and I'll go let him know.
A third voice from another zombie that appears from the darkness says, "It had provided me with a lot of information. One supposes it had done its job. A pity that it needed to be fixed." But then I did take a gamble on something that could infiltrate the weak-willed mortal kind. "5 days. That is all I am giving you. 5 days.
All right. And Kai will wait to see if the zombies retreat before rolling up into a ball and heading towards Castletown.
The stance of the zombies changes slightly as they stumble a little bit. But then as they stand as straight as zombies can and resume their normal moaning and begin slowly stumbling towards you, you realize that it's going to be a long night, and prepare your maul. And that is where we will end the session for tonight.
Oof.
Thank you everybody so much for watching/listening. I have been ArticulateT, the Game Master of Hyrule Chronicles, the Legend of Zelda D&D campaign. With me as always, I have had Renji Vox being played by Nether.
Can't stand it with these fucking zombies on this fucking Hyrule plains.
I have had playing Hikan Sio and Kaikuana, Alvarans.
Kai's be like, "God damn it, I was a week away from retirement."
I have had playing Zaiden Shari, Robopirate.
Finally, a plan months in the making.
And I have had playing Max, Keystruth.
Turns out talk fighting isn't that hard, actually.
Yeah.
You just gotta roll good.
Yeah.
I also found it funny how little the advantage I gave mattered for our rolls.
That's true.
It helped.
It gave us moral support.
Yeah.
We believed we could do it.
Yeah. And we'll see
We
you
believe
folks
in
next
ourselves.
time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.